Congressman Anthony Brindisi standing by right now on the line. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Bill. How are you?
Wonderful. Did you have a good 4th?
Had a very nice 4th of July. Got a couple days rest, and now back to Washington to get to work.
All right. So I want to – the OD had a story yesterday about Nano, and I want to get into that because I know you were instrumental with that project. And, of course, the complaint now is that it is that it's stalled. But and I don't know what can be done from a congressional standpoint, from a federal standpoint. But the OD story talked about how state officials are very optimistic that this site is probably the best site for this type of technology, this state-of-the-art nanotechnology, probably the best site ready to go in the country, if not the world. That's a pretty big statement right there.
Oh, yeah.
The problem is it still remains empty. And one of the flaws that we're facing, and this is according to a couple of critical watchdog groups in New York State, one of the criticisms about our area is that it's not a perfect fit. For instance, we landed a big business in Rome and a big business in Frankfurt, which you were a part of the one in Frankfurt, Tractor Supply, talking about a distribution center, which is a good fit. Whereas these high-tech jobs, we can't seem to fill them here. So I guess the question would be, what can we do to fix that problem?
Well, I think from a federal standpoint, the best thing I can do is really support our local and state officials in their push to try and prepare this site and attract a company there.
Yeah,
it does take time. If you look at Frankfurt, look at Tractor Supply and the business park, the pumpkin patch. For years, that was empty, and officials in Herkimer County worked very hard to attract companies there, and now the business park is full. So it takes time to really attract the right fit for that company. I would say that in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the land, from what I understand, we have everything that a site needs. The question is, do we have a workforce?
Right.
Do we have a talent pool? Do we have the amenities that people can enjoy outside of work? And I would say that we do. You look at the region as a whole and the number of colleges and universities that are in the region, engineering schools like Binghamton University or Clarkson or SUNY Poly. You look at the amenities that we have in the area now, especially in places like downtown Utica or what they're doing in downtown Rome. There are those pieces that are starting to come into place, and I think it's a matter of time that a company does locate there. Again, they were very close from what I understand, talking to people on the ground there. They were very close to landing Texas Instruments, which is a major player in the industry.
Yeah, I believe that the Marcy site was number 2, was the backup location for Texas Instruments.
From what it came down to, I guess, is they just wanted to add on to their existing facility instead of constructing a new facility. So, if you look at the industry as a whole, I think it's kind of slowed down a little bit. So we'll see where that goes. But obviously, this kind of technology is always going to be needed. You're always going to have to process computer. You're always going to have computer chips to get used in every single item that we have today. So there'll be growth again, and it's just a matter of time and hoping that a company wants to invest in this region.
And it looks like the site will be, the work on the site will be pretty much complete and state-of-the-art by fall.
That's my understanding from talking to the folks at Edge and at the county. It's pretty much shovel-ready. So, and that's the key, really, for a lot of these companies is once they select a site, they can't go through another 2 years of permitting or infrastructure improvements. They need to get a shovel in the ground as soon as possible because they have to stay competitive with their counterparts across the globe. And the faster they can get a facility up and running, the better.
Okay. There's obviously so much to talk about, from Iran to watching this presidential race unfold on the Democratic side. And et cetera, et cetera. But I do want to get into a little politics, if we could. We'd heard an interesting story before break that Republicans, the NRC, not overly enthused about Claudia Tenney running as your opponent, and we wondered why, that they were trying to find her a position. I don't know if you want to comment on that, but that's what the word that I was receiving from a Republican was prior to the 4th holiday. But now it seems that the reason is because they might have a candidate that they're eyeing, as this Franklin Sager has jumped into the bunch. You already have two opponents, and this Sager is claiming that this is a district that is run by Nancy Pelosi. Have you debunked that rumor as of yet?
Well, I would say that I have, and I've done pretty much everything I've said I was going to do during the campaign. I obviously did not support Nancy Pelosi. I've been very independent. Of all the Democrats in the House of Representatives, I'm the one who votes the least with the Democratic Party because I don't look at parties when I vote on issues. I look on issues and how they're going to affect the area that I represent. So I think I've been very independent. I've also been very bipartisan, working on legislation that I've gotten passed through the House to address the veterans' suicide crisis. I'm working on a bill right now with a Republican colleague of mine to stop the dangerous flow of fentanyl into our country, which is ending up on our streets and killing people. I have a bill with another Republican colleague of mine to lower drug prices and help generic drugs get to the market faster. I don't support things like Green New Deal or Medicare for all. So I think I'm a pragmatist, and I don't really look at party when I'm voting. The most important thing is to do what's right by the district that I represent, and to make sure that we're responding to everybody in the district and their needs, regardless if they're a Democrat or Republican. Frankly, I don't care. And when people ask me what party I am, I say, look, I'm an American. That's the most important thing. First, you're an American. Party should become later on down the line, and you should really work to make sure the best interests of the country are put first.
Speaking of those, the best interest of the nation, obviously when it comes to the border issue and immigration, we seem to be at a standstill. But there's been some things that you've been able to accomplish, for instance, for farmers in this area, which is an industry that's kind of been left behind.
Well, it's an industry that sometimes gets overlooked, and it's unfortunate because farming and agriculture is a very important part of our economy and an important part of the fabric of who we are in upstate New York. And our farmers have had a tough time with the tariffs that were imposed and some of the retaliatory tariffs that were put on in place by countries like Mexico and China, and they've had a tough time with immigration because they need to have a reliable workforce who can come to these farms and work, and that's been a hard thing for them. So we've been working very closely with our farmers to make sure that the policies that I'm working on the Agriculture Committee address their needs. We had a good meeting up in Oswego County last week with some dairy farmers to discuss this new dairy margin coverage program, which dairy farmers should be taking advantage right now, which is something that was a part of the Farm Bill that was passed last year. We're working on other issues like getting whole milk back in our schools, which is an important thing. Going towards non-fat milk in schools was a bad idea because obviously it doesn't taste as well as 2% or whole milk, and kids don't like it. So we got to get those options back in schools. But we're going to look at every issue on a case-by-case basis. And look, immigration is a fix that has long plagued folks down here in Washington. But it's very simple what needs to be done. It's all about compromise. And then the president has his ideas on immigration. I respect that. He has asked for funding for physical barriers in certain locations along the Mexican border. I support that. I also support reforming our asylum process, adding more judges so we can clear this backlog, getting funding to the border to help with the humanitarian crisis that's happening down there, and then looking at our immigration policy as a whole and what needs to be done to really address the folks that are here in this country and to stop people from coming into this country illegally. Can
you talk about the 9/11 compensation fund and what your plan is for that?
Yeah, so if you remember, after 9/11, we all came together as a nation, put aside partisanship, and really recognized that many of the first responders, those police, fire, EMS, Port Authority, you name it, some sanitation workers, anyone who went down to 9/11 that day or in the months afterwards and got sick because they were told the air was okay to breathe, and later on come to find out it wasn't okay to breathe. So many first responders are getting sick now and now losing their lives to cancer and other illnesses. And this victim compensation fund was established to really help care for them while they're going through their medical needs, but also to provide a death benefit to families once the first responder succumbs to whatever illness it is that they were exposed to down at 9/11. This fund is running out. It's been renewed a number of years in the past. It has to be renewed in December this year, but it's already running out of money, so benefits have been cut. I've been working with a bipartisan group here in the House to try and get more co-sponsors onto this bill, this 9/11 Victims Compensation Fund bill, so we can get it renewed. We're up to 330 co-sponsors, and I expect this month in the House we're going to have a vote on this. And I encourage Mitch McConnell. He has said that he's going to put up for a vote. We'll see. But I fully expect he should do that, and we should get it passed so we can provide benefits for these first responders who went down after 9/11 to really help with the recovery effort.
Another bill that has been out there that passed the House is this election security bill. And you tend to vote in line with Congressman Katko. He voted against this. You voted for it. He said there's another bill out there that he preferred. What did you like about this one?
Well, what I liked about this one is that it provided for paper ballots. We have paper ballots in New York State. When you go to the voting booth, you fill out the Scantron, you put it through the machine, and there's that backup paper ballot. Many states don't have that. So if there is hacking into a voting machine, these are all electronic nowadays. So if there is hacking and you don't have a backup paper ballot, it's almost impossible to tell what the result was. So I like that aspect of the bill, and I think this is the thing that we should be focusing on, is how do we make sure that our elections are secure. And this is a bill I think that was a step in the right direction. There's more that has to be done, but this is a good measure.
All right, interesting stuff out there. Any other issues that we should know about, Congressman?
No, I think we're going to continue to hold town halls across the district, look at issues on an individual basis. We had some good wins in the House appropriation bills for Rome Labs and Binghamton University down in the southern tier. We've had some good wins in terms of rural broadband and other issues that we've been working on. So we'll continue to try and address the needs of the people in this district, and there'll be plenty of time, I'm sure, for politics down the road.
Hard to believe, but you're 6 months in, and you already have two opponents. It does, and you got in early yourself. It does seem that the politics start much earlier today.
Politics do start much earlier because you're running on a 2-year cycle in the House of Representatives, but look, if you do the job the right way, people will reward that, and that's what matters, just doing the job. Everyone always tells me, we don't care what party you are, just go to Washington, work with your colleagues, and get things done. That's what I'm trying to do right now.
Bill mentioned the two Republicans, and do you expect a Democratic primary or a challenge in your party?
I haven't heard of one, but who knows what's coming down the road. Obviously, that's a possibility as well, but we'll take that as it comes, and like I said, if you're doing the job the right way and people, the majority of the people in the district are behind you and like the job you're doing, then they should re-elect you in a year and a half.
I'm hearing that AOC feels that you're just way too conservative. They got to find somebody that's a liberal out there to run against you. So you never know.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah.
But I try to vote the what I think is in the best interest of this district, not what's in the best interest of Manhattan or San Francisco or other parts of the country. Yeah. What I care about is the folks in New York 22.
Congressman Anthony Brindisi, thank you so much for taking the time. We'll do it again. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, guys.